From the United States of America, a field hospital valued at 400,000 balboas, in addition to personal protective equipment, for a value of another 120,000. Very generous of the United States. The donation was received by the Vice Minister of Health, Yvette Berrio, from the hands of Admiral Craig S. Fowler, Chief of the United States Southern Command and the Charge d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Panama, Stuart Tuttle. At the time of receiving the donation, Vice Minister Berrio said, "Experience has taught us that the fight against the coronavirus must be done as a team. To make it more effective, to the extent that we do it together, we are stronger. And the fight, you can wear it better. Wear it by, not wear it, you're not going to wear it. Wearing thin, kind of like that." Anyway, Vice Minister Berrio in turn delivered the supplies received to the medical doctors of the Children's Hospital, Paul Gallardo, the Santo Tomas Hospital, Elias Garcia Mayorga, I got that right, the Hospital Panama Solidario, Aurora Vernanza, and the Hospital Nicolas Solano Yamika Abad. Quoted the Vice Minister, "The battle against coronavirus is not a fight of groups, governments, nor of countries. It is a battle in which literally all of us must participate to face a common enemy that knows no borders or nationalities." For his part, Admiral Craig S. Fowler, the commander of the U.S. Southern Command, highlighted that it is important for nations to unite in difficult situations in favor of citizens in general. Today, the government of the United States turns that friendship into effective and tangible help for a network of public hospitals. In this way, the Panamanian public hospitals will benefit from the care of the Panamanian population. That was a quote by Vice Minister Berrio. There's a whole section of paragraphs here that relate to MiBus and the Metro, which is in Panama City, in that area. It does affect us here in the way that we use buses and taxis here. So what they say there kind of goes here. You know, when you get on the bus, don't take your mask off and talk to the person next to you. There shouldn't be a person next to you, but we'll leave that for them. As far as the epidemiological report goes, well, 44,529,000 and change have already recovered from coronavirus. And I always start off with the good news, 69 million people have accumulated positive cases, and the worldwide fatality percentage is 2.3%. Now, for us in Panama, Thursday, December 10th, there were 157,888 recovered patients, people that, they got better. There were 2,447 new positive cases for a cumulative total of 185,424. Yesterday, there were 13,299 tests that were applied, and the positivity rate is unfortunately up at 18.4% with 23 new deaths. But our overall mortality rate is still below the worldwide rate. We're at 1.8%, so, keep on trucking there. I wanted to let you know that, in case you forgot, we are still under a state of emergency. That has not been rescinded yet from March. So, the Panamanian government can do what they feel is best for the entire nation, and that includes more mobility restrictions and lockdowns and curfews and et cetera, et cetera. So how about we all just be a little more careful out there, guys? I like going out at night and, and obviously we're not going to parties or anything like that, but it's nice to be able to move around and get to the in and out of the grocery store in less than 4 hours. So anyway, that's the Panamanian news for this morning. Welcome, Dr. Dave.
Thank you. Doing, good to be here today.
I haven't seen you in a while, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Cause
no one's seen me in a while.
You've been a little busy, haven't you? For those of you who don't know what Global Food Providers is, I was going to work up a little thing and try to explain it, but we've got the jockey here for that horse. So give us a little synopsis of what Global Food Providers does.
Well, we have fed widows and orphans for 35 years.
Wow.
And we're a small organization, nonprofit from the U.S., and I just dragged that thing along with me when we came to Panama. Of course, we built a farm almost 6 years ago, 6,000 meters of greenhouse. It's a very small monster.
That's not really small.
But we grow superfoods. The farm is open to the poor. They can come. Anyone who's in need, they can come and get what they need and take it away.
That's just
free of charge.
Just come and get it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then we also have a dehydration center where we dehydrate superfoods: kale, Swiss chard, okra, spinach, and moringa, and some other things. Yeah, and we turn it into powder, and it's a great superfood where they can take one heaping tablespoon, throw it in a pot of rice while it's cooking, and it's like every family member getting an entire pound of super salad.
And I could tell you from personal experience that is very good.
It is.
Yeah, you had
really.
last time you were on the show, you brought me a bag of, I think it was kale,
Yeah.
maybe, and I didn't know how to make it because I just figured, but then my wife and I had contacted you, and you gave us this is how you do it, and it was good.
It is.
It added a good flavor to I guess what would be considered by a gringo, boring food, just white rice.
That's right.
So, and it's nutritional for you too.
Very nutritious, and when you get the little kids, when the indigenous children or the Panamanian children take a bite and smile and look for more, you hit it.
You
hit it right.
You did something right.
That's right. So that's what we do, and then also just because we just got a heart to serve. When like this lockdown happened and people all around us were just starving, couldn't get out of their homes. Yeah. Many of them in a situation where it would take them 2 hours to walk to the store, and they only had a 2-hour window, so they're illegal. They were stuck at home, unable to eat. We have been able and had so much help. So many people donating in to where we had mobility because we're farmers and we have 24/7 access to the world. Yeah. So we would fill the trucks and take them up. We still do that now, once or twice a week, depending on where the real need is.
That's a really important gap to fill because I don't pretend to know, how the Panamanian government, goes about making the decisions on these time, how many hours you get, but it would make sense to me that they would understand that there are people in their own country that need more than 2 hours to walk to a store and walk to get back. Yeah. And we also know, and I don't know if we discussed that with you, but I know I've had a few other people that work with the indigenous and with the people in the interior, to where some of them were getting arrested just walking to the store to get food.
Right. Yeah.
And you give someone who's indigent a $200 fine.
Right.
It doesn't really add to it.
And he makes $68 a week.
And this is not a disparagement towards the Panamanian government. They've been very good to us expats here, but it is something, that is a need. And when you get global food providers and people such as yourself all through the nation filling that gap, that's a really, really important and very valued very valued service to provide.
I think that the Panama government is so overwhelmed.
Oh yeah,
no one asked for this bomb to drop on all the nations, and quite frankly, many of them, who have always lived in Panama City, don't quite understand a 4-hour total walk to the store and back.
Yeah, even
and
though
so
it took you 4 hours to drive across town.
Right, that is true. That is true. But I think that a lot of these people, in every crisis, someone's going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And over in our neck of the woods, Cherokee, we've just got people everywhere that are falling through the cracks.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure we talked about today. Is in addition to obviously, the great need in this province, just from the lockdown and from the restrictions and whatnot placed on that. Now we get the tail end of a hurricane come through. And I know, we got damage here in Boquete and this side of the volcano, and there were needs to be met here. There were landslides, but you guys on the other side, in Volcan and Cerro Punta and those areas, you guys got hammered.
Yeah,
I mean, really bad. I put a photo album together about 2 months ago, about maybe 70 or 80 pictures that I collected from social media, and the pictures and videos of the damage to where you guys are, or where at least on that side of the mountain, where you're serving, I can't even imagine. And I had been through earthquakes, I've been through tornadoes. I was through the '89 earthquake in Oakland, California, and comparatively, we skated by. Obviously there was devastation, but just being cut off from everything. How did you organize? Because I know you did a lot over there. You guys just were back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with stuff. How did that come together? And how did you manage to get food up there?
We had a lot of help. We had, of course, our wheels are on the ground, but we're not the ones filling the truck with the food. So we're just partnering with gracious people. But our first trip up, after the Volcan Cerro Punta travesty up there.
Yeah.
My eyes were opened when I rolled up that road between Volcan and Cerro Punto, and we ended up on a makeshift gravel road because I'm not sure where the other road was.
It just wasn't there anymore.
And I looked over and I said to the guys in the truck with me, I said, I think there was a building here where we used to drop all of our peppers off when we first got started farming.
Wow.
It was a big, and it was gone. There was only backhoes and bulldozers rolling huge stones and rocks where the river had literally taken over all of this. There were no foundations. Nothing was left. It looked like a nuclear bomb had gone off from that point forward.
Wow.
Huge trees, and imagine 15, 20 feet tall of just little sticks that were really huge trees, but they're all just jammed up and, up on the side of the
Like
river.
a log jam.
Unbelievable. Wow. Unbelievable, the destruction that hit and how fast it came. So from that point forward, then, we were in four-wheel drive, heading up into zones where people were totally cut off. Farmers couldn't get to their fields, or farmers couldn't get out of their fields.
Out of their fields, yeah.
And then many fields that were on the side of the mountains were just, when that Cat 5 hurricane, the first one came through, headed towards Nicaragua and Honduras, we're 500 miles away, theoretically.
Well, you don't think that,
And we got a little spin-off of that, which ended up in 2 feet of water in 3 days.
Yeah.
So really, there's about 18 inches to 2 feet of volcanic ash everywhere over on that side of the mountain where we grow. And but once that water saturated down past that 2 feet, everything underneath it is slime. And when it hit that slime, the topsoil just fell off the mountain, slid down into the river, and went away. Went to the ocean.
I guess the weight of the ash and water probably was too much for it to adhere to that.
That's right. And so not only did we lose we lost that crop that was on that field, we've lost all the topsoil. So that farm's gone.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
No,
we had talked. Now, you've been on the show several times, and you've mentioned this formula that you have, and I had not committed it to memory. I'm sorry about that, but
you don't have my elevator speech down yet.
No,
huh?
I do not have the elevator speech down
30 seconds.
yet. I'll work on it. But I know that you mentioned that there are catastrophic events that when they happen in a sequence, results in a worldwide catastrophe, and with hunger and loss of farms. And I have to imagine that what happened with the tail end of ETA, combined with the pandemic, has had to have hit one or two of those.
You're absolutely right.
So can you explain?
Sure.
Yes,
well, in my
please.
Global Food Revolution book, I have the 4 facts and a wild card.
Yes,
Just
I have
put
that
it on
book,
the
by
hand.
the way.
Yeah,
I do,
yeah.
yes. You gave me a
4
copy.
facts and a wild card. And so, fact 1 is global population explosion. We're heading to 9 billion people by 2050. We're heading straight up. Fact 2 is farmland, usable farmland reduction, which that hit during this storm. We lost farmland permanently in Panama during this last storm.
That's what you were talking about when it hits the slime and that there's just no topsoil.
Or whatever happens, and it could be geopolitical. Hey, it cost me 50 cents to grow tomatoes, and you're offering me 30, so I'm out of business. So when you shut a farm down, you don't just start it up in a McDonald's minute again.
Right, no.
So there's all kinds of reasons why farms are going down all over the world right now. Yes, and the weather patterns as well. Number 3 is we're in a technological decline. We used to be able to grow lettuce in 45 days. Hydroponic, we can get it down to 28 days. We need to get it to 20 right now, and we can't. We're stuck.
Do we know why?
Stuck.
I mean,
we just don't have the next breakthrough in technology to make things happen miraculously and bigger.
So it has yet to be developed. That's
right, and we're looking for it, but it's not happening yet. So number 4 is crazy new bacterias, viruses, and superbugs, fungus, hongos that have never been on the earth before, and here they are. Yeah. One small virus in March just added the speed of famine in the world by 80%. That's what the United Nations World Food Program says, that this lockdown in March just expanded and increased the train that's coming, called global famine, by 80%.
So the lockdowns throughout the world that has accelerated some of these
Right.
these viruses and funguses.
Well, the lockdown has accelerated the famine, the famine that's
Right,
coming.
right, okay.
And that's 80% globally, but crazy enough, where we live, 270% in Latin America. That's the speed of famine now. I could share a couple of reasons that I see on the ground why, but I'm sure it's much bigger.
Well,
than
no, we
what I
would appreciate
understand.
that because most of us, we live in our living rooms and we watch TV and we get
Right.
stuff from our phones. So you're on the ground. You're
Yeah.
like the general, boots on the ground. So give us a little insight.
I'm the corporal. I'm the corporal driving the truck. All right. And government has released a report saying that 40% of all students in Panama have been lost. Now, we sent them all home. No more school.
Right.
And the only way back to school now is through a cell phone, an internet connection,
Sure, yeah.
electricity, and a Zoom call with your teacher.
Right, which that's
But-
not really a household norm. for
Well,
most of-
let's get into the indigenous world where they're living on dirt floors and no electricity. Who's got a cell phone with an internet connection and a Zoom call? So imagine before March, many children who came to school all through Panama, they only got one meal a day, and
Yeah.
that was the one provided at the school.
Sure.
Now we shut the school down and send them home. Where is that meal coming from?
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of famine expansion right
Yeah.
there. There are kids all around us, and especially in the indigenous zones, that are not eating and classified severely malnutrition.
Sure, yeah.
So that's one deal. Another would be the Panama government put out a story. I think I've got it in my truck for you here in Spanish. That by the end of 2020, this is big. 25% of all Panamanians will be unemployed by in the next 3 weeks. 25%, and that's because the destruction of business, destruction of the
Sure.
economy. It has not been able to rebound yet. So when you have 1 in 4 not working, you have 1 in 4 not paying their bills or eating.
So I would imagine that's got to be an exacerbated number because, from what I understand, that those figures are based on contract workers that they have records on, and then when you add in all the non-contract workers, the housekeepers, the gardeners, the
Right.
people, that's got to be more than 25%.
You're probably on something there. Yeah, absolutely.
Because those people they're not recorded, they're not getting the vouchers, they're out there pretty much on their own.
Right. Now, if you've seen, we're seeing the effects of that right now locally.
Yeah.
If you're seeing all the pickup trucks coming around selling vegetables, everyone's got a stand on every other street
Yeah,
corner.
I have noticed that.
Those people probably have lost their jobs and they're selling vegetables. They're trying to pay their bills.
Yeah.
And so we really want to encourage you, find one that you can adopt. Go buy your papayas and your bananas from them and just befriend them and help them. They've lost everything through this, and they're trying to make it up. We're seeing, when we go down to the market in David with our produce, we see 1,000 people down at the market all buying vegetables and fruits. They're loading up the buses, the little yellow buses that say colegio on them.
Yeah,
Well, there is no colegio.
No, there is not.
School's gone. So they're using those vehicles now to try to develop a base of selling food.
Like a route.
Yep. So we're seeing some of that. If you're seeing people selling bananas on the side of the road, these people were formerly employed, and they're just trying to pay their bills now and keep their families fed. So we see the effects of it around here. 270% expansion through Latin America of famine because of the last 7 months of lockdown. One of the things we see in the farm level, if you can imagine the farmers up till March, they and this is everything from agricola, growing chickens, to the farmer growing carrots.
Right.
They had 50% of their business was restaurants.
Right, yeah.
And I can't say it's exactly 50, but it's a large portion is restaurants. Well, all the restaurants are closed, so now all we need is 50% for the people.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they have a double crop coming out, and the price, if you notice, the price was low on food during the first part of the lockdown because
there's so much of it.
Yeah, someone please come take some of these carrots away, these tomatoes and all that. So the farmers really suffered. Many of them lost a ton of money. They couldn't even afford to get the crop out of the ground, let alone to bring it down the mountain and give it away. So then many of them, being broke, did not replant for the restaurants to reopen.
Well, you are
now,
yeah, sure.
now restaurants are open. Everything's kind of opened back up, at least for a time.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking for carrots. Everyone's looking for tomatoes, and the price is going up because
Supply and demand.
there's no supply. Yeah. So that's part of how famine is created, is when you disrupt a fragile supply chain.
Yeah.
And it's disrupted in Panama. I can't even imagine Honduras, which their main cities are 95% destroyed from the hurricanes. You know, all of these different things. And by the way, I gave you the 4 facts. The wild card is climate craziness. Yeah. It's heating up in some places and cooling down in others. Jungles becoming deserts, deserts becoming jungles, and none of us know for sure what our location will end up doing. Yeah. Just got to try to prepare for change.
Whatever, something's going to happen, but we don't know exactly what that is or when it will be.
Right. That's right. So, and we got about a 48-hour notice on the 2 feet of water coming. Right. You know, so change is coming. When would that be? Well, 2 days. It's coming now. And when those things come, you just can't get out of the way. And many of us who are very wealthy, if you own a car or have a refrigerator, you're on top of the world. But many of these that are super poor just cannot get out of the way. They don't even get the news in time, let alone being able to get off the mountain or prepare with some extra rice. Or it's tough deal. Tough deal.
And not even you look, a lot of them, even if you told them you got a couple of days, they don't have the resources to prepare.
That's right.
It's like, well, let's go dip into our savings jar and go buy extra rice. That doesn't exist.
Right.
It just doesn't exist. And a lot of the times, a lot of us expats, our version of living hand to mouth is way different than the reality on the ground here. Our little group, we adopted a school up here in Jaramillo. It's Escuela Estrella Los Valle, and it's 136. There's 32 or 35 families in that school, 136 kids, and we've been having fundraiser after fundraiser just to feed these families through. Because without school, like you said, there's no food. Right. And it costs $1,200 a month. Basic to feed these families and keep, a lot of them lost clothing and shoes and whatnot. And,
what a price. 135 kids for $1,200 a month.
And, fortunately for these families, we've managed to raise enough money to get them through. Hopefully the schools will open again in March. That's just one school. Right. One tiny school, and 35 families. That's not a large school. It's one school in one remote area on one mountaintop in the entire area here. And you have to. It's heartbreaking, when you think you're barely making a dent. There's so much need here. There's so much, like you said, there was the catastrophes between the lockdown and the weather patterns and the hurricane and all that. It's just, how do you even make a dent in that? I mean, that's, you guys just plod along and you go every day and you do and you do and you do. And, bless you for that. But how, God, that's got to be.
We kind of feel like that ox sometimes. Just keep your nose down to the ground and just look forward, and don't look at the rest of the field or how big it is. Just keep walking, And that it's only going to be the mercy of God that any of us get through this unscathed.
It's really it's you look at it from the perspective of what from expat eyes. And even as heartbreaking as that is, that's not even a drop in the bucket towards what these individual families and individuals and farmers and whatnot are experiencing. There's got to be a sense of desolation there when you look at the side of where your field was, and there's no field, and then there's no house, and then there's no barn, your animals are gone. I mean, everything is just gone. Facing that has got to be just personally devastating.
Well, no doubt many of them probably went to bed one night and prayed to the Lord and said, "Are you sure you want me to farm?" And woke up the next morning and said, "Well, I guess that answer's been given."
Yeah.
The farm's gone, and there's no planting in slime. The topsoil's gone. So
and that's what you mentioned earlier about this. It's not you can't come back from that.
Yeah.
I mean, what you going to bring in truckloads of dirt?
No.
When that's gone, that farm is gone. So that's out of the picture. You can't even count. Okay, well, in 5 years, we'll have a farm. I would imagine, in geological terms, it'll be a really long time before that area, that devastated area, is ready to farm again.
That's right.
Now, does that contribute to that 200 and something percent?
Absolutely.
That's all part of
it. All does. Yeah.
It all does.
Well, because now those producing farms will no longer be bringing their produce to the market, and now we're stretching supply and demand again. So yeah, absolutely, that's a piece of the story. It's not all of it, but it's when you get enough pieces together, you come up with the perfect storm. Yeah. That's the danger that we live in right now. There is some good news.
Yes, I was going to ask you. So I know there's good news because I read your Facebook posts and I see what you guys at Global Food is doing, and I've watched your videos, of you driving at 4 o'clock in the morning. This is what we do at 4 a.m. And all you see is dark outside the window. And I know you've already been up. You guys have already been up, and your workday has already started in hours before that. So, yeah, let's have some good news.
Well, in extraordinary times, it opens up new avenues, new supply lines, new opportunities. Right now, we can look out and see 25% or more unemployment, or this is a good time, especially in the expat community, for entrepreneurs who may be retired, come off retirement, and to help develop some new supply lines for some of these people. Literally, anyone in the business world could develop multi-million-dollar businesses right now, bringing in new products, new services, new supplies, things that were not acceptable or not profitable before are now suddenly you've got an entire force, an entire team of workers ready to go. And that could be in any area, but it always crisis always produces new inventions and new opportunities. So they're here. I really recommend anyone that's got a heart of compassion, a little extra time, and a bunch of wisdom stored up from your years and decades, get on it and start looking and find that niche that you're good at and help bring this country back.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that, especially in the areas, like this area and areas like Coronado, where there's a huge concentration of retired expats, and not just from the States, from everywhere in the Western world anyway, that have a lifetime of wisdom in these fields. I mean, I've met people that have been they spent their life developing water purification systems.
Yes.
Civil engineers, people who can offer their services to maybe make the roads a little more stable. And I read these stories, when I scroll through the Boquete groups and the David groups and the Volcan groups. I'm a member of all the groups because I want to know what's going on around here. And it's like, I spent 30 years as a civil engineer building water purification systems in the Western Sahara. I'm like, help, help, right? And just the sheer amount of the collective wisdom and talent here amongst the expats communities. When you look at that and then you look at all the need, you wonder, well, there's got to be a bridge there. There's got to be a way to get that knowledge, talent, wisdom, and experience and put it to use. We all love Panama. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. And when we read these things, or when we talk to people like you, who has boots on the ground, and we see and we hear, we understand the scope of the need here and the precarious cliff that we're hanging on in so many different areas. If it doesn't move you to want to act, I don't know how to address that without seeming like a jerk. I don't want to, but
right.
This is our home too.
Yes.
And the people that live on the mountain in the tin shanties, they're our neighbors.
Right. That's right.
And I don't care who you are, what you believe, what side of politics you're on. My judge of someone's character is how do you treat your neighbor, whoever that neighbor might be.
Right.
So, when we have organizations like Global Food Providers that's out there in these communities bringing, resources, well, how do you treat your neighbor? That's the way I firmly believe, that our society will be judged on how it cares for its weakest, weakest members. And there's so many resources here. There's so many of us here that are comparatively filthy rich. If you have a car, if you have a home with electricity, if you have food in your refrigerator, and if you have enough money to go out to eat once a week, you are comparatively very wealthy.
Yes. Yeah.
And
who knows that in divine providence that maybe we thought we were coming to retire, but really we came for this time.
Yeah. Well,
to be a key to help this country, in a very particular way that we had no idea in the past. One thing that we a lot of times things come in seasons. We've been pushing dehydration for years.
Yeah, the first couple of shows you were on, you talked about
dehydrate.
the machines and how you were doing all that. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, and so 40% of all food grown around the world, you could land anywhere, drop yourself on a parachute anywhere, and probably 40% of that food's being lost. One way or the other, it's wasted or it's harmed.
Look right for the grocery store.
It doesn't make it. It goes rotten before it gets to the home, or at the home we lose about 10% that we just don't get eaten before we throw it away. So 40% around the world is being lost, and we have a food crisis. So we've always said, let's look back instead of only trying to grow more. Let's look back and try to save some of the 40 that we're losing. Dehydration's a no-brainer. It's easy to do, not rocket science. So we've pushed dehydration, and for years people are like, that's really a great idea, see you later.
Oh yeah.
And now all of a sudden, whoa, 270% increase in famine. What was that about dehydration?
Well, and we've and I know, like I said, it's already got half the show, more than half the show is already gone yet. Can you give us an idea or a crash course in how dehydration works and what are some of the benefits and what you guys specifically are doing with the dehydrated product?
Sure. So, and our dehydration season is on now. The whole world's interested now. Because the great need for food is here. So if you've ever seen a tomato that's starting to shrivel up, it's starting the dehydration process. The liquid, the water's going away, and normally we throw that tomato away, but we personally would just love to have that tomato if you could get us a truckload of them that are just starting, because they've actually helped us get it into the dehydration system. So dehydration is pulling the water out of the produce through a simple means of heat and airflow. It's 75% airflow, 25% heat. You just run the air over the top of some cut vegetables or fruits, and in a very short period of time with a little heat added, that water will disappear, and you end up with a dry produce that has all the nutrition in it, but it weighs 90% less, because 90% of it, most everything, is water, and it will last if you'll seal it up and keep the humidity out. It'll last up to 6 months in the tropical environment, up to a year in other places of the world. So you have time now to get this nutrition on location, and then when you put it in hot water or however you want to rehydrate, it comes back. So a powdered soup mix or little cubes of tomatoes, onions, and peppers, you can throw that in a pot of boiling water. They come right back to normal again, and you have all the nutrition. And you were given up to 6 months to get it transported on location. With that fresh tomato, I've got a couple days to get it to the guy that's going to eat it. And if he has a refrigerator, he can store it for a few more days. But it's going down. With dehydration, you suspend all of that nutrition.
And a lot of the people, a lot of these, when you think about, a home without electricity, a lot of times all you think about is, you have nowhere to plug your phone in, there's no lights, but there's also no refrigeration.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we assembled a prototype building and dehydrator, and it does realistically about 120 pounds per cycle is what we can do.
How long is the cycle?
8 to 12 hours, depending on how thick you cut it, if you cube it or leave it whole. But basically a day, 1 day, one cycle. So that's an awesome deal to be able to take 120 pounds. And what we grow on our farm, we found that superfoods, leafy greens love to grow. So we grow lots of kale, Swiss chard, collard greens and mustard greens, okra, and spinach is our number one. We're the kings of spinach. We have a jungle of it out there, and it just grows on its own without much intervention from us.
Bok choy.
And bok choy, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. We've got a few other little things that we do, and we just started growing stringless green beans. They're not available in this country other than through us, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And that when you bite into it, it reminds you back home. Years ago, you know. So we grow that, and we dehydrate that as we grow it, 120 pounds a day, and then we pulverize it into the super powders to give out to the poor. So that we have hit our next bottleneck. 6 months ago, we hit the wall, and that is now we have donors who are saying, "Hey, I got 3,000 pounds of tomatoes. Do you want them?" And my answer is yes, but I can't take them. Because at 120 pounds a day, I'm going to lose 2,800 pounds. I'll get 2 days dehydration done, and then we have to throw the rest away. So the answer has been no. Yes, we want it. No, we can't. No, we can't. And so we took it on ourselves to just start plowing forward and taking every spare dime we got and start going towards 15-time expansion. So right now we're in the middle of building a dehydrator that'll do 1,800 pounds a day.
So that's a significant. Wow, that's from 120 pounds. That's a significant.
15x, baby.
Wow.
And so what that will do is when the guy says, "I got 3,000 pounds of tomatoes," we say, "Bring it."
Yeah.
Now
well,
we can do
1,800
it.
pounds a cycle. You got more than half.
Day and a
of
half.
that.
Yeah, in a day and a half we're done. And then there's farms around. There are farms that put 1 to 20 semi-truckloads of produce in the ground every year because they don't have a market for it. They grew it. Yeah. It's going bad. Just put it in the ground. And they dig holes and they throw them in the ground. And these places have said, if you can get it dehydrated to give to the poor, we'll give it to you. But at 120 pounds,
a day,
you just can't do it. So we're on our way, and anyone who would like to get ready, get your knife sharpened, because we're going to be cut, slice, and dicing a whole lot of food in the near future.
And we also, the last time you were on, and the last 2 times you were on, we talked about, doing this stuff on a small scale, like in your home.
Right.
And we talked about you could actually do this in your house. Obviously, not to the scale of a commercial farm, but how does one go about doing that? Is this an easy thing that we can do? Where
It sure
we get
is.
how much do these things cost? And
once in a while, you'll see someone selling a dehydrator in their garage sale, and it's first thing gone. The first thing gone. The only other way is to go online. You can go to Amazon, Cabela's, any place that deals with with outdoor living, and you can pick up a dehydrator for $150 to $500. If you want the $450 to $500 one, you're going to get a stainless steel unit that's going to last forever. And we've burned multiple little dehydrators up. Back when they were $89, we'd buy 5 at a time and do everything we could just to help feed our neighbors. And we would just melt the plastic. Those were plastic units. We'd just melt them down. But we'd get 250 cycles out of them before they melted. But absolutely, you can get a little one. I really believe in the future that. Matter of fact, right now, China is hurting so much for food. They've put national mandates out that you will order less at the restaurant and you will not waste anything. And they're real serious about that because of the amount, millions of tons of food waste in a crisis that they're having. So in the same way, we've seen France, different places in Europe, they're beginning to put out mandates, national laws that say grocery stores, you're not allowed to throw your food away. You've got to give it to a nonprofit or someone to where it can be used. So I think in the future, where we see a microwave today, we may see a dehydration unit in the future.
I wonder if you can dehydrate food in an air fryer.
You absolutely can. I've got one of our board members on our nonprofit. He does it every day in his air fryer, and he's always showing pictures and videos of.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can get a decent air fryer for about $100.
That's right.
$150. If you really want to go high end. And I'm thinking, as you're talking, I was like, heat and airflow. Isn't that how an air fryer works?
You're absolutely
So
right.
you can air fry your whatever, and you could also dehydrate.
Hey, there's 3
one.
tomatoes going down.
Yeah,
Cut them, throw them in,
throw 'em
turn
the
it
air
on.
Fryer. God, my
You
wife
bet.
wants an air fryer so bad. She keeps telling me I want an air fryer, and I'll log it in my phone because I don't remember anything. You know, my
Same here.
my brain is like a sieve. So I'll like August 27th, 7:28 p.m. Wife says she wants air fryer, and I'll put that in my little list of things. You know, when anniversaries come around.
Now if you can just
By the
remember
way.
where that list is.
If I can remember what that list is, but you know, my wife is as you know, because we've talked about this. She's a produce hound. She loves produce.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like an unintentional vegetarian. She doesn't like not eat meat because of some moral cause. She just loves fruits and vegetables.
Couldn't get to it.
Yeah. So I'm like, wow, but things being as they are, sometimes money's a little tight. But an air fryer would serve 2 purposes.
Yes, it would.
Because now you can all your friends, oh look, this is it's like when the Instant Pot came out, everyone's doing their videos, right? I could just see my wife doing videos on dehydrating stuff in the air fryer because we go through a lot of produce, and every couple of days we're at either the market or one of the trucks
Yes.
buying produce. And I never used to like vegetables and fruits because I was a child till about 2 years ago, and now my wife makes it in ways to where this is really good. This is honey glazed peppers or whatever it is, and I'm like So now, I've become more conscious of driving around, seeing. When you mentioned it earlier, yes, I am seeing a lot more of pickup trucks, cars with the trunks open, college, school buses. Around, and I just figured that I knew that there was a glut of food, but I didn't realize until we were talking today the severity of that.
Yes.
And what predicated it getting to that situation and all of that. So if you want, guys and gals out there, go get a food dehydrator or an air fryer. And you can start doing this too.
Well, I have an idea that I can spot what's in that box under that Christmas tree this year.
I know, right?
At the
What could
Stefanale
that
house.
be? It's not a tie. Oh my God! Yeah. Well, you know what though? This is an agricultural society.
Yeah.
And when the agriculture goes away in an agricultural society, you've got famine, as you so poignantly addressed, and it's. On the one hand, it's really, really good. I mean, it really does my heart joy when I see the things that organizations like global food providers are doing in this country, because it gives me it kind of restores your faith in humanity. There's so much bad news out there. There's so much violence in the world. There's just so much. It's almost overwhelming as you doom scroll, through your
That's a good word.
thing, and it's like, oh, this guy, and then there's those points of light, right? That I look at and I'm like, this person, look what this person is doing. This organization is helping these people. This organization's building, water wells in Sahara Desert. This organization in Volcan or in Puerto Rios is feeding, an entire province. And it restores your faith in humanity when you see good done on a large scale. And even a step further, when you see other people doing things like buying air fryers or dehydrators and doing that is a direct result of what places like Global Food is doing. It brings that education that otherwise people might not have. People might not know you can dehydrate stuff in an air fryer, or what even dehydrating it is and how it could help you feed your neighbors. A lot of us have. I live in a Panamanian neighborhood. Most of my neighborhood is working class, and most of that neighborhood is now out of work. And I would love to be able to just dehydrate 10, 20 pounds of vegetables and just give it to my neighbors. Here, have this.
Right.
And I tend to ramble, but it really does, though, Dave. When I see people working in our community in a selfless manner, however you're led to do it, it makes me proud to be part of this community when I see the generosity of this community.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's so true. And there are so many people. We've seen, we always say, it's time to become a global food revolutionary.
Yeah.
And what do you need to do? Get a dehydrator,
an air fryer or something.
Just do something, and you've joined the answer. Yeah. And since this lockdown started, we have seen so many people, so many individuals, families, groups that have gotten together and have sponsored schools or the hot meal area. We've just seen it happen all over the place. People have just activated into providing the answer, and that just makes my heart proud.
Does it though? Yeah, it does.
And it does restore your faith in humanity. It really does.
This community has, I've seen over the few years that I've been here, just over and over again, there's a need, and this community comes together. And I don't just mean Boquete, I mean all the communities in Cherokee, which is obviously what I'm most familiar with, whether it be here in Volcana, Cerro Punta, or down in David or Pedregal, wherever there's a need. Like I said, I'm a member of all these local municipality Facebook groups, and there's always the expat community is always coming through, and not in a way where they're looking for pats on the back.
Right.
My wife has a phrase that she likes to use. Don't get caught being awesome. Right?
That's great.
Don't get caught being awesome, and obviously, when you have a charity and you have, an organization, you need to get the word out on what you're doing because you're relying on the kindness of others. But if you're walking down the street and you see a family and you've got, $5 in Balboas in your pocket, if you carry around $5 in Balboas in your pocket, you probably don't need it.
That's right.
Just little things like that. You be at the store. How many times have people come up asking for money, and you're like, oh, these beggars, blah blah blah. But just one or two words into that, then you realize, well, this is a mother with a child, and that piece of paper she's holding in her hand is a prescription for $4 worth of antibiotics.
Right.
You know what? Walk her into the store and pay for the antibiotics.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take a picture of it and put it on Facebook. It's things like that, from the small to the large, to what you guys are doing, that really kind of makes me proud to be human.
Right.
Because like I said, there'll always be, as they say, there's evil in the world. There'll always be evil in the world. There'll always be evil people in the world. There'll always be people who have nefarious agendas, and I think it's on us, on those of us, who want to do good in the world and provide.
Yes.
To rise above that din. And to let other people know it's not all bad, man.
That's right.
There's people doing good here, and you can be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask you one thing. It just came to my mind now, because now I'm on this air fryer thing.
Get it before you lose it.
I'm on this air fryer thing. Day and I have stayed in several B&Bs here for various reasons of getting our water is out, or we're getting work done on the house, and I noticed a lot of these places have convection ovens, which I know is a heat. Can stuff be dehydrated
Absolutely.
in a convection oven? So now we
Absolutely.
have three choices, right? We can get a dehydrator, an air fryer,
sure,
or a convection oven.
Yeah.
And we can dehydrate food.
And even a regular oven, YouTube University will teach you all of this.
YouTube University.
But you crack, you put something in at 150 degrees and just crack the door open so the air can move, and you have a dehydrator in an oven.
In a regular oven.
Sure. Yeah. Again, it's not rocket science. It's very
Heat and
easy.
air.
We want it to be. We want it to be rocket science, but it's really not. It's just airflow and heat.
Wow.
Yeah, and mostly airflow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I especially in the highlands here, the humidity, food doesn't last long at all. I mean, we have a big, I guess, serving platter that, thanks again to my lovely wife, who, by the way, on December 9th, that was 30 years ago to the day we met.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
everyone, because we got married 12 weeks later. Our 30th anniversary is coming up in March, and everyone said, "Oh, it'll never last. It'll never last. It'll never last." And they were taking bets. Right, our family was taking bets a year, 18 months. Well, 30 years later, we're all still together, and they're all like divorced. Some of them 2 and 3 times, but we won't talk about that.
That's another day.
But excuse me. She gets the vegetables and fruits from the local markets and trucks, and you notice that shrivel that you were talking about earlier, that starts to happen sometimes within 24, 48 hours. Mm-hmm. And now, we're mad making salads because, we don't want to throw it out. We don't want it to go to waste. And I had never even considered, because I guess I'm a failing student on YouTube University, that our own oven could be used to, too bad you can't run a microwave with the door open.
Right.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be very safe, though.
Might not be. And the way algorithms work, the moment you type it in to YouTube, you will always get opportunities. They'll be sending those videos to you from now on how to dehydrate once you type it in once.
Yeah, that's true. That's how that works. But since the first time you came on the show, the whole I guess the process of dehydrating has always been fascinating to me because, I grew up where I grew up and how I grew up when I was a child and a young adult. I guess you would consider upper middle class, almost to that line of being wealthy. And we threw so much stuff out. It was pathetic. My parents we'd have like a 5-course meal every night. And on Sundays, the entire crew would come. We'd have 30 people in our house because we had a stupidly giant house. And so much was thrown away.
Yeah.
And even in my I guess you would call youth with blinders on, I wasn't exposed to poverty till I was in my 20s, honestly. Sure. Even in that atmosphere, living on the North Shore of Long Island around all of this excess, it always occurred to me, why are you throwing so much stuff out? I mean, they would overcook. We've got 6, 7 people at a table, and there's 2 chickens, there's 5 pounds of pasta, there's just this giant salad, and then I watch at the end of the meal as all that was just scraped into the trash, and I'm thinking, that old adage, you can feed 10 families in Africa, with the stuff you're throwing out. But I never got that whole eat your vegetables speech, because I was the youngest and I was the only boy, so I got away with murder. But ever since then, I've always been fascinated. How there's got to be ways to where when those of us who are considered wealthy are done with ours, that this could go to somebody else. This could feed somebody else. And I guess that made me kind of the black sheep in the family because, I was like, well, what about them? What about the people on the other side of the tracks, who are going through dumpsters? And here we are with 10 times more food than we need, and it's going in the trash. So when you came on the show, the first time we met and we talked about dehydrating food, well, that brought me 40, 50 years back. And I wish that this technology, it might have been available, but I wish it was more mainstream. I wish it was to be like when we finished eating, we could just take all that stuff and put it in this machine, and then it can be just put in a bag and it's given away.
Right.
Right. So
here we are.
Here we are.
Times have changed.
And what you're doing, is keeping that in the, or trying to keep that in the forefront. Yeah. This is what we can do. So if you got an air fryer, if you have, it won't work with a Fry Daddy, which is a shame because I love my Fry Daddy, but with an oven or a tabletop dehydrator, it's not just about saving the food for yourself. You can also give that to the people in your community, that need it.
That's
I
right.
guarantee you, if you walk up to a lot of the people on the side of the road here or standing around the shopping centers and hand them a bag of food, they will be thankful. And it's not about the pats on the back, but it's been my experience that I get more of a blessing helping people than when someone tries to help me. When people try to help me, I'm always like, I can't take it. You get that pride gets in the way, Mm-hmm. But it always feels good to help others. However you want to interpret that, is fine. Yeah. But it always feels good to help others. And being able to use this technology, what you said is not rocket science. we could all do it. I mean, if you have an oven in your house.
That's right. And, I think that to expand out just a little bit further,
Yeah.
we can use multiple timelines. If you have food that you cooked and you got a ton of it left over, and that happens to all of us from time to time, a good vacuum sealer and a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Vacuum seal that thing and then target and find your family. And
those aren't expensive, by the way. I've seen vacuum sealers on Amazon for under $50.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, you target a family with 4 chicken breasts and some a different deal of salad or whatever. They've got 24 to 48 hours to
eat that.
Sure. And so you can. Now that wasn't dehydrated, but it was still preserved and distributed where the need was. So once we develop these, I wouldn't call it a system, but you just a heart viewpoint that hey, I've got this extra. I'm already thinking where this is going to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now it's either going in the dehydrator or the little unit, or I got a place to get it tomorrow. I've got a gardener that needs it. I've got a neighbor that needs it. Once we do this, we are our brother's keeper.
Yep.
And we are taking care of the neighborhood. And we can do it small, and I can guarantee you, once you get started small, it grows automatically. And that's what we did. We started small decades ago.
Yeah.
Just, feeding who we could, and it ended up into semi-truckloads. It ended up into a farm, and, now we're thinking about thousands of pounds per day of dehydration, and working towards that. And it's just because once you grow it, or once you do it, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is.
And somehow, I don't know how it happens, but it's like people and God all get involved and miraculously bring stuff.
And those, and we are out of time, but those words of wisdom from Dr. Daniel Daves of Global Food Providers. I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
And when I ask people to come on the show, they go, "How long is it?" I'm like, "It's an hour." "No, I'll never be able to. No, you don't understand. I used to do a 3-hour radio show up in the States, and it went by like that. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk with us. Well, you've been listening to Boquete Now, Talk Radio. We've been talking with Dr. Daniel Daves of Global Food Providers. I'll put all the links and stuff in the post-production so you can find out what he's doing, watch his videos. And we will be back next Friday. I'm not really sure who we're going to have on, but I promise you it'll be somebody fun. Sponsored, Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, and Tap Out Sport Zone. Paz un buen día, mi amigos, mi amigas. See you next week.